We would like to present you all with a hypothetical situation.
How hypothetical?
Not very, unless we screw up.
$16.5 million in each of your bank accounts 5 weeks from now. In 3.5 weeks, the Met will be hosting its annual ball, celebrating its new costume exhibit. And we are going to rob it. Not the ball itself, but a very important set of diamonds that will be attending the ball.
On the neck of Daphne Kluger.
Who Rose will be dressing.
The Toussaint?
Very good. Once Daphne is inadvertently on board, we can then get the necklace out of the Cartier vault, hack the Met security system, thank you, Nineball, and infiltrate the gala, considered to be one of the most exclusive...
The most exclusive.
The most exclusive party invitation in America. So go home, get your affairs in order, because tomorrow we begin pulling off one of the biggest jewelry heists in history.
Welcome to Franchise Killer, a podcast where we pick movie franchises or wannabe franchises, review them film by film, and see where things went wrong. All right. I'm Reese. You are?
David.
And you are?
Irina.
And across from me?
Noah.
And off in a distant land, we have...
AJ.
And today we are talking about Ocean's 8. So we dialed it back a few members. This movie came out in 2018. It was directed by Gary Ross, who also directed Pleasantville, Seabiscuit, The Hunger Games, and most recently, actually this movie most recently, but before that, Free State of Jones. The movie stars Sandra Bullock, Kate Blanchett, Anne Hathaway, Mindy Kaling, Sarah Paulson, Awkwafina, Rihanna, and Helena Bonham Carter, with a screenplay by Gary Ross and Olivia Milch. Are you doing okay over there, AJ? Were you processing what I was saying?
Yeah, I was just trying to, put people's voices to their on-screen animated characters.
Wait, animated?
Animated? What?
Yeah, this was Moana, right?
Oh my gosh, Moana.
Excuse me?
Story of female empowerment where she steals a famous jewel and tries to talk to the ocean or the spirit of the ocean.
Oh,
Wow, okay.
Not as connected in the title, but I see it.
I give you a 10 for creativity. So
Yeah, that was a good one.
Okay.
Anyway, on this podcast, we first go over our thoughts on the film before revisiting it for the episode. Then we dive into the story, break it down bit by bit, and talk about the more significant moments. Towards the end of the show, we give our brief reviews and numbered scores, along with an analysis on the health of the franchise and whether or not this film hurt it. So you guys, had any of y'all seen Ocean's 8 before this episode? Noah?
No.
Always? Okay. Irina?
I hadn't, and mostly because I kind of felt it would go the same direction I thought Ghostbusters would, the remake, or continuation, I guess, where it's just replacing old characters with new female ones, but not very cleverly done. So, but yeah, so I didn't end up watching it.
Came very close to giving an opinion there.
Very
I could tell
close.
you wanted
Yeah,
to.
almost did, but I didn't.
How about you, David?
Nope. I think this was the first time I saw it with, I guess it was you and Irina, so.
Yeah. And AJ?
Same as everybody else, I had not seen this until this week.
I had not seen this movie either, so honestly, it wouldn't have made sense if I did, given the fact that I hadn't seen the previous three at all. So we're all new on this one, guys. This is
Look at that.
This is always kind of fun. I like movies.
Fresh movie.
Yeah, I like movies that we're all completely new on, and we have no idea what the other one is going to think of it.
Yep, this is going to be it makes me think of those YouTube videos where it's like, watch the movie critic review this movie for the first time.
Those are really trending right now for some reason. There's this one girl specifically who's
I think I know which one you're talking about.
Watch the Lord of the Rings movies for the first time.
I watched that one.
And then I saw these other ones, and watch me do the Harry Potter ones and the Star Wars. It's like, did you ever watch movies before this?
Honestly, I feel like some of them are pretending.
Yeah.
I'm
some
sure.
of them, I can't believe they actually haven't seen
know
it.
their opinion, and they just want to, like, hey, look, I love this movie too. Let me be a part of the fandom.
Yeah. All right. Are y'all ready to get into the story here?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Do you know this one?
No.
Debbie Ocean, convicted felon. Her brother, Danny Ocean, more convicted felon. She was present on the night of the incident.
So,
So you want to hit a jewelry store?
Not exactly.
A diamond mine.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Or what? The Met.
In 3.5 weeks, the Met will be hosting its annual ball, and we are going to rob it.
lucky.
$16.5 million in each of your bank accounts 5 weeks from now.
That's a lot.
They've got every inch of this place covered.
This is the most sophisticated security in the world.
How long did it take you to figure all this out?
5 years, 8 months, and 12 days.
Why do you need to do this?
Because it's what I'm good at.
Okay, everybody, let's get started.
Here we go.
Counting down. 3, 2, 1.
Game on.
Newly paroled con artist Debbie Ocean, the late Danny Ocean's younger sister, convinces former partner in crime Lou to join her in a new heist. They assemble their team: bankrupt fashion designer Rose Wheel, jewelry maker Amita, hacker Nineball, street hustler and pickpocket Constance, and profiteer Tammy. So this was directed by a different person for once. The last 3 movies had been directed by Steven Soderbergh. This one switches over to Gary Ross. Do we feel like Gary Ross puts his own footprint on this movie, or do you think he's trying to emulate Steven Soderbergh, or a mix of the two? Like, what is your impression watching this movie?
I think he did a very good job of trying to mix the two, because you can definitely tell that the mood is very different, and maybe some of that you can attribute to it just being made in 2018 versus an early 2000s film.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, he manages to keep a lot of references to the original trilogy, as well as some characters showing up that you recognize, but not overdoing it to the point where I think it's just kind of reaping benefits from the popularity of the first.
Yeah. It's definitely trying to riff off of some of the same plot points and character introductions that were present in Ocean's 11 specifically.
Yeah.
Right.
I definitely think Sandra Bullock is definitely the sister to Danny Ocean.
Yeah.
And Cate Blanchett is
Rusty,
she's different than Rusty, but she's
that role.
in that support role. I actually
Partner.
think she's more interesting.
She
Oh,
is.
Rusty.
She's
Yeah.
definitely more interesting. Honestly, the weird thing is, while watching these actresses on screen, this is in a weird way, most relaxed I've seen them in a role. Mm-hmm. Especially Cate Blanchett. I don't know why, but I get the impression that she was more able to just kind of be herself in this role, and I love her look. I think she's
Love
just
those bangs.
so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. She has kind of a low-key rock star of the 70s type.
I know
vibe.
you and I got the same impression, kind of a David Bowie feeling.
Yeah, a
from
little
her.
bit.
A little bit Stevie Nicks in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
I can
Stevie
see
Nicks
that too.
there.
How do we feel about Sandra Bullock, though? And I guess the rest of this cast, but I do want to kind of focus on the main two right now. So
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock's leading this one. Do you think she carries it?
I approve.
So
I think she does well.
Similarly to the first movie for Ocean's 11, they're showing her coming out of prison just like Danny did.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of mimicking that to start off with, and I think that she almost pulls it off a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think she's more convincing.
I like all the actors, but I have to say at the beginning, it looked like they had to kind of work their way into it a little bit. Just the flow of the movie seemed at first like, all right, we're trying to, match up with the rest of this by like throwing a couple things in, like a couple similarities or parallels to the
Warm you up to it a little bit.
to the Ocean's 11, and then but to me those kind of came off as like, I would have preferred if they had their own thing rather than drawing the parallels. And I think it started out a little shaky with some of the characters, but then they eased their way into it and it got a little better.
I could agree on some of the other ones, but I definitely think Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett really slip into these roles
Yes.
nicely. Like, Sandra Bullock has more confidence than I've seen her have in a long time, just carrying this movie on her own. At least right in the beginning, she totally sold me in the that prison cell scene.
Yes.
Yeah, I like Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett. They were the good ones.
I've always felt that Sandra Bullock in all of her roles is just playing a slightly different version of the same character. And you can see that in this one, but in some ways that's sort of what sells her, is that she's using her own mannerisms to play a role, so it's believable. And I actually really, really like her in this role, and I'm kind of sad I didn't watch this movie earlier.
Yeah, she is a very, like, alpha female.
Yeah,
you know?
She does a good job.
I think that came about during maybe, like, The Blind Side. I think that's the first time I started noticing her like that. Gravity, though, like, what are her recent roles? I think of Gravity. That's like that's a really good performance as well. But this one especially,
the biggest one I've known of.
Next, so they're assembling the team. What do we think about the rest of this cast here?
I have to say that while watching this movie, I never felt fully safe that it was going in the right direction, because each time they introduced a new character, I was kind of a little bit tense, wondering, like, are they going to live up to the rest of the cast? We'll see. I kind of felt that way about, I guess, I don't know. I hadn't seen Awkwafina in much before this. And Rihanna, I know she has done a little bit of acting, but I wasn't sure if she would stick out too much in this role. But
I was most worried about Rihanna because and this is because I had seen her other performance, which was in Battleship, and it was not great. That's nothing against her. I feel like that's just that role. There's not much to do with that. You're in a movie based off of a board game.
Yep.
So
that's a bit of a risk. But
I think that movie itself was a bad one. So you can kind of just chalk it up to that.
But I do think that Gary Ross knew exactly what she would be able to nail. Yeah. And he targeted that for her. And for the most part, she hits it, I think.
I think that a clever director takes his actors or her actors and tries to get them to fill out a role in a way that comes naturally and sort of let them lead with their own personality in some ways.
Kind of playing off their own strengths.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what he did with a lot of this cast, because all of them seem very natural, and I think they were given the chance to just sort of ease into their characters, and I think that carries it pretty much.
Yeah. I also think it was wise to... You have these typically, like, really big presences or in some of these performers, like Mindy Kaling and Awkwafina, who I thought Awkwafina kind of went a little over the top. But Mindy Kaling was someone who I was a little concerned about because it's a big personality and it's a large cast, and you don't want... That would just be too many cooks in the kitchen. But they smartly kind of make her performance a little more subtle, and I liked that.
She's normally more typecasted, isn't she? I think like her type of comedy is the same in almost everything I see her in. So I was expecting that form of comedy. So I was actually kind of surprised the way she was utilized in this.
Yeah, she seemed more naturally herself than putting on her comedic air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last ones, let's quickly talk about Rose and Tammy, played by Helena Bonham Carter and Sarah
Rose.
Paulson, respectively.
Honestly, they are both great. I love both of those actresses. And I think Sarah Paulson, she's been showing up a lot more lately. I remember the first thing I saw her in was American Horror Story, and she's consistently been a very good actress. I didn't watch her in Glass, but I really, really like this sort of former criminal, but now housewife, but still kind of having a side job of, selling basically products illegally. But she just does such a good job, and I don't know why she's so interesting to watch. Also, Helena Bonham Carter, who's usually playing a very either devious or intelligent character. I loved seeing this almost kind of ditzy fashion designer aspect. She was the most comedic, I think, actually, in this film. Well, Anne Hathaway maybe too.
She was actually really funny.
Both of those.
And I would not to compare her directly, but I guess she's kind of the third Matt Damon type role where it's a little goofier, at least the Matt Damon from 2 and 3, or Linus. But no, she's totally different than Matt Damon, but I would say she's the third Bill, most screen time, I guess. So we don't quite know what the heist is yet, but everyone is assembled. My last comment before I guess we move on is that I think having a smaller team makes this feel more organized and it's easier to digest.
Yes.
Less complicated. All 3 of the Ocean's movies before this, it was like almost a comedic lineup of all these introductions to characters. And this one, it's still a lot of people, but it cuts just short of being too long. Oh, that's too much of this.
Yep.
So yeah, I kind of like a stripped down team because you get more time with the characters and you get a better sense of who they are. Debbie plans to steal the Toussaint, a 150 million Cartier necklace, during the upcoming Met Gala, and use film star Daphne Kluger as an unwitting accomplice. The team manipulates Daphne into hiring Wheel and convinces Cartier to loan Daphne the Toussaint. They digitally scan the necklace to manufacture a worthless cubic zirconia replica. Tammy secures a job at Vogue and gains access to the gala, and also gets Lou hired as a nutritionist while Debbie leads Daphne to invite art dealer Claude Becker, whose betrayal sent Debbie to prison. Lou confronts Debbie for planning a revenge against Becker, but Debbie reassures her that it will not jeopardize their plan.
I think something that this movie has done well is it kind of took one of my issues with the previous films in the franchise and remedied it by having the heist broken down into bite-sized chunks, you know? So you have part of the heist explained, then you watch the sequence of events leading up to it, and then they proceed to explain the next part of the heist and what's going on.
This is something 12 struggled with.
Yes. So I don't know. I'm so far really was enjoying this story and how they tried to come up with a concept that would make sense for a team of women to try and pull off. That reminds me, I think going back to the intro, I loved the way that they handled these. I think Debbie Ocean as being a career criminal, and how she really does just con her way into things almost effortlessly.
Yeah.
And I think that's something also that was missing in the other films, where all that was talked about was the heist, but you never actually saw them do anything devious otherwise. Not naturally anyway. So I don't know. I just enjoy these characters and where they're going.
Well, and they also set up the heist from the beginning with the fact that Debbie, I guess, was in prison for roughly 5 years, if I remember correctly.
5 years, 8 months, something like that.
So they said she's been planning this the whole time. So she had a plan, and she's ready to execute it the second she gets out.
And it makes sense.
One other comment I wanted to make, and this does regard the intro, and it's something that I started to think about with all of these movies, and maybe why I didn't resonate with 1 and 2 as much as I did 13 and this one. I've noticed that the heist movie structure, the first act of the movie is setting up all the characters, and you kind of get to know them. But once it gets to the planning phase and the execution phase, which is usually Act 2 and 3, it's almost like goodbye character development, because now it's about the heist.
Yeah.
So what I feel like 13 had goodwill on its side, because I had learned more about these characters, so I did start to connect with them, and 13 didn't have to do as much of that legwork right at the beginning.
Right.
This one, I feel like, is like, okay, we gotta start big, like really establish these characters in a bigger way. Whereas 11 was more is kind of low key about it. You know, you kind of got to know them, and then it was like right to the planning phase almost. And I didn't feel like I had a firm grasp on who everyone was. With this one, it suffers from that same thing where it's like once it gets to the planning phase, there is less character development, and that's, I just think, the nature of the beast
with heist movies in general.
With this type of movie. But it's still kind of coasting off, you know, the higher fumes that it made at the very beginning, because I feel like it made a stronger impression right from the start. Also, I feel like you want to talk about a certain character, Irina.
A certain character? Richard Armitage?
No, Anne Hathaway.
Oh, Anne Hathaway. Okay.
Whoa, hey, Richard Armitage. We see who's on your mind.
Okay, so I have to say, I knew about Richard Armitage before all of y'all. Before he was in Captain America and The Hobbit. I mean, he's an actor that I was aware of from a TV show called North and South, or I guess you could call it a mini series. And loved him ever since. And he popped up in the trailer for Captain America once. And I was like elbowing my friend because my friend was the only other person I knew that actually knew who he was from something before that. So
and everyone was like, oh, that guy.
Yeah. Anyway. And then Anne Hathaway in this is, I think Anne Hathaway honestly is one of the greatest actresses out there currently. And she's just really able to effortlessly express emotion in a very believable way. So I don't know. Her role in this was fantastic. I loved.
Oh my gosh, that one scene where Rose is where Anne Hathaway's like upset about the size of her neck, and Rose
her
has
body,
to reassure her. The number of emotions that went on in her face that led to like tearing up and then stopping it. I was like, wow, how do you do that?
I know. She's so great.
And she's playing an actress in this, right? Anne
Yeah.
Hathaway's character.
Yeah, total diva.
I think this is what I also like about this film is that they're juggling a lot of female characters, and they don't try to ignore the fact that there are some women out there that can be a bit much, but that doesn't mean they all are, and not all women are perfect either. So I love this representation of kind of a spoiled rich actress who just is very, very caught up with everything superficial.
She's very materialistic.
So now that we know what the plan is, which is to steal the Toussaint, which is a diamond necklace, I'm guessing.
It's like 500 years old or something like that.
Yeah, so we learned that this is a very stripped down, basic heist. How do y'all feel about that?
I like it a lot. I think it's much better and more believable than pretty much everything that we saw before it. I think that it's easier to digest, and I was kind of waiting for something like that where it's not throwing this convoluted plan that requires all these different crazy contraptions. I know this one has a kind of crazy contraption, but it's more believable, I think. I think if someone told me this was real, I'd go, okay, I can believe it.
It's at least a singular thing that you have to wrap your brain around. They're not hauling in a whole bunch of crazy gadgets.
Yeah.
I will say, though, regarding that, it might be less, I guess, convoluted as far as that goes, but also it takes away a little bit from the believability that it would be as simple as it is to be able to acquire a $150 million ancient necklace.
I think it was believable the way they set it up.
I mean, it's in keeping with how the other Ocean's movies have been.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's fair. I mean,
I think rich people can do that, though, with necklaces. And even if they're really, really rich, as long as you get them insured and stuff, I bet you a place would be willing to do that.
It's more just like all the things that they were able to like convince this the guy that owned it to.
I will argue that this kind of thing does happen, and they do often have actresses or well-known celebrities parade very expensive jewels from, very, high quality people. And so it's not uncommon.
And you would imagine it helps the image of both. Like if someone's got $150 million jewels, if it's on the neck of a very famous actress or, a public figure, that ups the value of both, I guess.
Yeah, I think the industry is eccentric enough that I can get behind this logically, where they're not necessarily being logical about it, but that's just the way the fashion world kind of is. It's a little kooky.
I suppose. I don't know. I just feel like we criticized the other ones for some of the same things that this one had.
Anything you would like to say about this segment, AJ?
Yeah, so I guess I'm going to be the dissenter on this episode. I did not like the target for this heist. I much prefer the casino giant vault of money. I feel like a singular object like, this diamond necklace, that it doesn't seem like a prime target for thieving, I guess, especially if someone's going to be wearing it and under surveillance and amidst people and stuff like that. I mean, I feel like that you could pick out a different subject or target for, a more efficient way of making that amount of money, I guess. Or at most, if you do something like this and somehow grab it in a swap, then you would need maybe 3 people to do it instead of 8. So the premise of the heist, I do not prefer over the first movie especially. So that's my opinion on it, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we do also learn that there is a personal connection to this. There's an ulterior motive here. We learn that Debbie is trying to get back at this Becker guy. That's Richard Armitage's character. Yes. Because he was a complete a-hole and got her in prison for pretty much 5 years, and she just kept a zipped lip.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I wasn't clear, was that a sting that he was in on, or was he just also...
No, I think he was saving his own skin and
he was not in on
dumping her. Yeah.
Yeah, he threw her under the bus, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I bet they were on to him, and he was like, wait, it wasn't me, it was her.
Yeah, she thought their relationship was ride or die, and he was like, I'm going to save my own skin.
Yeah, she was thinking of it as a Bonnie and Clyde situation. While he was just...
Yeah. At least in this situation, we have a villain that we all can root against.
Yeah.
I feel like the first 3 movies,
I
didn't... Well, you're wrong,
I don't see a villain in this movie at all, because the ulterior motive is just kind of incidental to the whole story. Like, we see a couple times of interaction between them. There's just no oppositional force other than, I guess we'll get back at him, which kind of goes another thing that, like, the directorial approach to this, like, I feel like they tried to have their cake and eat it too, of, is this a remake or just its own new original thing, where there are certain plot points that go beyond the point of, wink and a nod or Easter eggs or, homage to the first or Ocean's 11. It's like straight up copying that plot point to the, but just beyond the threshold. So it's like, it is a remake, but it's also not a remake. I know y'all like the blend of it. I didn't think it was successful in that approach.
Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
That is interesting. Because
I'm a little more on your side regarding that. It should have either been its own thing, or maybe they should have just fallen more in line.
I honestly think it is its own thing. I don't know, but that's just a difference of opinion. But
I know it is its own thing for the most part. It's just that's when those scenes that are straight up copied and pasted from 11 that are like so blatant to me, I guess.
Yeah, if that is honestly my main weak point about this movie, and I did enjoy. It sounds like I did enjoy it more than you, but it is not doing much that is original from a plot standpoint. It is almost a complete copy and paste of what Ocean's 11 did. That said,
I didn't really feel an
like
oppositional force throughout the whole movie beyond circumstance.
Okay, so the thing is, I find it's more of an oppositional force, but it's only one criminal's moral compass compared to another. His is just a little more unsympathetic than hers. She's a career criminal, so, it's not necessarily that she's a good person. But his is, he doesn't care about anyone at all and just wants to save his own skin, while she has a little more of a connection with the people that she works with. So it's basically one moral code against another, and that's the opposition. So
I think what AJ's trying to say is that this guy is a bad guy in this movie, but he's not a villain, because he doesn't hold the strings of being the one that's antagonizing them or whatever. He did that in the past, but throughout this movie, he is just the fall guy.
Yeah.
And there's nothing more except they're kind of getting revenge on him. So that it doesn't really have a villain.
I would actually agree with you. That said, I don't think the movie's main goal is to take down the villain. The main goal of the movie is to accomplish the heist, and the cherry on top is that
he'll go
Becker
under.
takes,
I agree with you, but I was more saying that like it just doesn't
he's
really
not
develop.
this is the big bad.
Yeah,
you're
right.
right.
That's more what we're getting at.
In terms of oppositional force, I was also referring to the heist itself. Like, what are the odds they're up against? They're overcoming these static challenges, and you have an inept security company, I guess. But whereas, like in the first one, you feel like that Andy Garcia's character, Terry Bennett, like he could at any point kind of catch them, or and if he did catch them, it'd be bad news for all of them. And even in the second one, you have the other force that's investigating them at the time. There's always another force that's running parallel to them that could interfere with them. Whereas this one, it's just like they're just up against the odds, the static challenges to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess I really didn't think about that as much. I was just kind of swept up in the heist of it. For some reason, the way it was laid out, I was like, oh, this is exciting. And I did the stakes for me were that it would be similar to Ocean's 11, and if they were caught, they'd all probably serve a bunch of prison time. And
that's a heist movie, though, right? I mean, it doesn't actually matter what it is. This is a believable thing to heist. It's like you're wanting to go after the jewels.
In fact,
so I'm okay with it.
More often than not, most heists were done at places like galas and when you think about it, art museums and things like that. So throughout history, those were mostly the focus. And the cool thing about this is you actually do get to see real art displayed at the Met. And they, unlike most film crews, the Met doesn't allow people to film there for much longer than 2 to 3 days. But in this case, they made a deal where they allowed them to film for a whole 10 days.
That's cool.
But they were only allowed to come in at 4:30 p.m. and film until 3 a.m. and then they had to leave. But so they had to really organize their time while there and promise, like very carefully make sure they were interacting with the environment, because those are the director himself said that there were paintings there that were more expensive than the budget of their film.
Which
so
is insane.
So it was a really, really ritzy environment to be filming in.
Wow. So I want to say just real quick before we move on to the next portion that firstly, I do agree that with AJ that I kind of prefer the casino heist over this. And it's fine if you don't, but I think that the casino vibe is in line with, Oceans, and that's kind of its thing. And sure, it's breaking from what they normally do. Aside from the second, like Ocean's 12.
Mm-hmm.
I prefer the casino as well, but I think if they had done a casino with this, I would be like,
it's too many similarities.
Another casino.
Like I can agree with you there. But I was also going to say that I do think that this movie has a better flow to it than the first Oceans.
Really?
Like as far as just kind of getting you invested in the characters first off, and then moving on between the plot points. It's a little less convoluted, easier to grasp, whether you like that or not.
Yeah.
I think that for me personally, Ocean's 11 was my favorite of those three, at least. And I think it's actually, for me, more on par with this one. So I think those two have been my favorite so far of what I've seen. But I wouldn't say I would say this film, for me, has more interesting characters. But the first one was definitely more clear-cut.
Yeah. Let's move on with the story since we've basically reviewed the entire film already.
Sorry.
No, it's nobody's fault. We just we're passionate. When Rose learns the Toussaint can only be unclasped by a special magnet carried by Cartier's security detail, Nineball enlists her younger sister Veronica's help in creating a duplicate. At the gala, Lou spikes Daphne's soup, causing her to run to the women's room, where Nineball has created a blind spot for the museum's security cameras. As the male Cartier's guards walk outside and Daphne vomits into a toilet, Constant deftly removes the necklace from Daphne's neck and sneaks it to Amita, who splits it into smaller pieces of jewelry. When Daphne reappears with the necklace missing, the museum is sealed and a search of the premises and guests commences. It ends, however, when Tammy finds the duplicate necklace. Constance slips the Toussaint pieces to the team to smuggle out, and Debbie plants a piece of it on Becker. After the heist, Daphne joins the ladies, revealing that she already knew about the robbery, which she figured out by their actions. She asks for the 8th part in exchange for saving them from jail. So here's where some problems emerge for me.
I agree.
I actually really like the heist. I think it's great. I do not like a couple of things that happen, though. I don't like that Daphne was onto them the whole time. I like her just being this kind of aloof diva. I feel like upon a rewatch of this movie, I'm going to enjoy her character less because, wait, you mean to tell me that she's observing them and noticing all these weird things about them as this is happening? And it also made me question why they would want Helena Bonham Carter's character in the first place if she's this clumsy at being around their main target and dealing with the most precious of Well,
it's because they
jewels.
needed her. I think that's why there's literally no one else who could do it.
You think that's the only one they could have got?
Yes,
I think so,
because she was the one that was already going to go to jail because of basically her debt.
She owed
Yeah. So I think she was the only one that they had leverage with, and she would at least have some stake in the matter.
Yeah.
And that's
plus she had
getting out of
credibility
prison.
and she had the ability to work with high level,
So
high profile people.
I get that. And she's the only one that
could've-
can be close to her. Yeah.
That said, they could have written her in such a way that she seemed more competent.
Yeah, like the whole scene where she's interviewing Kluger, or Kluger's like wanting to get together with her and like, hey, I want you to do my next design or whatever. I thought
She wouldn't have got hired.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I think they played that specifically in that way to make Anne Hathaway's character want her more, because when people ignore you, and especially the fact that they set up where they, acted like she was going to take another professional person, Anne Hathaway's character wanted her so that she could take it away from that other person. So when you act like you don't like somebody, they want you more. That's the whole point of that.
Yeah, well, I think the target was she failed at that. She more just looked like, I don't know, confused or distracted or
Well, that was the point of that they were trying to convince, but I guess that didn't land for everybody.
The thing is, I think the heist is great. I really the bathroom trick I thought was clever. I think it was just the setup. I believed it, and I liked seeing them all work in tandem to secure that. What do you? I mean,
I was just going to say that. Yeah. Well, actually, honestly, it's a little bit of hacker magic, but at least in this point, when they're actually showing the computer screen, and the computer screen looks like a believable computer screen, whereas everything kind of flows seamlessly in a format that you're not familiar with.
It's not
in
some
this
like
one,
CGI
she's like trying to
diagram.
manipulate the cameras, and you're kind of gruelingly watching her just have to click a button repeatedly and have it move ever so slightly until they create a blind spot. So I don't know. I like that.
Also, I don't know if this is in this section or not, but the fact that they stole all these other jewelry pieces along with the main one, isn't that like a whole bunch of other criminal investigations and paper trails that you're leaving?
Yeah, see,
because
maybe not paper trails, but I know what you mean.
Should we just talk about the end? Like, there's just all of this. Just assume this is all.
It's kind of
we kind of got
we're
still
kinda,
a little bit.
Yeah, we got a little bit, a couple other.
Should we just read through that and then just talk about all of it?
I do want to get all of y'all's opinions on the heist before the fallout at the end.
Right.
I mean,
I liked the heist. I thought it was a fun heist. You could get behind it. It made sense, and I think I just prefer the casino setting. But again, I agree with others that it would have been seen as a kind of they're doing that again.
Yeah.
Trying to do a remake instead of their own thing. But I appreciated it.
I will say from at least a female perspective, I'm not hugely into fashion, but I can see how this makes more sense for as far as a female interest, because the Met Gala is more popularly known as a female oriented thing. Like, mostly women are into fashion, mostly women are into wearing the jewels and the gowns, and there's sort of a who's who there of celebrities and everything. So I think this makes sense as a female oriented cast for them to want to kind of immerse themselves in that environment, as well as being something where this is one of the most exclusive parties on, in the United States or, everywhere. But getting to see the inside to some extent, and not to mention they actually did connect with Anna Wintour about trying to make the Met Gala fit the standards of her actual parties. Yeah. So what they did, they would have a kind of a cocktail party to encourage celebrities and things to want to be a part of this film. So they had this cocktail party going on kind of above their set.
Yeah.
And so when they needed a celebrity to come down and do a scene, they would say like, hey, can we have you just for like an hour to do this?
Smart.
They would just bring them down. They're like, yeah, sure. And so
they got like Olivia Munn and
they got a lot of people in there. And so, and they actually got Anna Wintour, which is kind of amazing to have someone actually in the creation of this film to kind of make it up to their standards and a believable Met Gala event. So I think that's cool. I think you get to have a bit of an insight on what actually goes on in there, because most people are on the outskirts.
Would they really have this like fancy old British party where they're all dressed in like Victorian garb?
Yeah, that was a fictitious event, like theme for the party, but it's she said that it is on par with what they would actually do there.
David, opinions on the heist?
Yeah, it was great. I think that it was easy for me to follow compared to Ocean's 11. I feel like, and I like Ocean's 11, but I feel like sometimes that one got a little clumsy, a little confusing, and they didn't explain a lot of what they were doing to a believable point. This one, pretty straightforward. You have to get Anne Hathaway with the jewels in the bathroom, do the swap, get in the blind spot, and get out. I get it. I can follow that. Yeah. And so I don't know, getting her poisoned now is a little wonky. Was she in it at that point?
Well, at that point she had been on to them.
Yeah, but I meant more like, was she, I guess she didn't talk to them until after it happened, right? So she didn't know she was going to get poisoned?
No, she didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I assume not, unless she did, because she went straight for the dots of stuff that
it did look like that, didn't it?
But maybe those just looked tasty. I'm not sure.
Little black dots.
It's not really something that's explained, but I think we can assume that she didn't know that was going to happen exactly that way. So
AJ?
Yeah, so I actually really like the setting of the Met as well. And once the heist is in process, it picks up the pace a bit. I just, kind of a concern I have with believability is having Tammy as kind of the linchpin, where, we're introduced to her as a fence, but then she's like the ace in the hole for like getting on the man on the inside, so to speak, on the administrative side of the Met. And just like, without her, like, what could they have done? She's really the linchpin and the pivot point for everything to happen.
Yes.
So she was also kind of, jack of all trades, con artist, whatever, that kind of filled in the gaps for the rest of the team, which kind of unbalances the team, in my opinion. I know there was balance issues that we criticized the team, and I do appreciate that they, reduced the head count. But even on 11, like, at least I felt like they had some kind of camaraderie and brotherhood by the end. And this one, like, they all had specialties, and then Tammy just kind of fills in the gaps for everything and makes it work. But I don't feel like they're operating as a team.
Isn't that usually supposed to be kind of what Brad Pitt's character did in the first one? He kind of just filled in all the holes. He didn't really have a specific role. He just...
Well, I think, the analog for Lou, Kate Blanchett's character, works there as well. It's just kind of, I don't know.
She was a pivot point, and everything weighed on her getting that job, but I think that was all part of the plan, and once you get her there, she had to operate.
Yeah.
This is something that, I didn't mention with Ocean's 11 either, or any of the Ocean's movies, but these people managed to get what would be really difficult to get jobs, they're instantly able to work and do that. And I'm always thinking, this guy's okay. Like in the first one, the hacker guy or the technician,
Livingston.
He's super nervous and he's having trouble talking to the interviewer, and he is somehow accepted into that role. I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, I guess
he passed the lie detector test.
They made a funny comment on that though, where he's like, normally people that have your demeanor they have something to hide, but your tests are showing up perfectly fine. So they did kind of I did
this
like
one,
that comment.
And I made a distinction between I think 11 and 13, where I guess in 11 it seemed like everyone's role was more based on skill and their talents and stuff, and 13 it was more based on luck and being at the right place at the right time. I feel like 8 kind of tends on, it bounces a little bit better, but I still think there's a lot of fudging it. Like, again, I think the target of the heist of the Tucson, the necklace they're stealing, like all of these coincidences that they're having to work on, like we mentioned, Weil Rose, her character kind of being, not dumb, but what's the word I'm looking for?
She's just kind of
klutzy, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that they're overcoming within their own team that like they could, I feel like it would have worked better for them to pick a more suitable target. I don't know. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe they had to get Anne Hathaway in this somehow, so...
Yeah. When the necklace is returned to Cartier's, the switch is discovered, and insurance investigator John Fraser is assigned to investigate. Having crossed paths with the Oceans before, Fraser immediately suspects Debbie, but her careful presence on the gala's video footage gives her an unbeatable alibi. She tells Fraser she may know who stole the necklace. Daphne visits Becker and sends Fraser a picture of the jewel Debbie planted. To further frame Becker, Debbie hires actresses posing as elderly socialites to sell the Toussaint off piece by piece and deposit the money into an account in Becker's name. The police take Becker into custody. As the eight celebrate their success, Lou reveals the heist's true target. While the gala was being evacuated, she and the amazing Yin, an acrobat who worked with Danny, replaced a Met display of royal jewels with replicas, escaping with gems even more valuable than the Toussaint. With their shares of the score much larger than they expected, each member of the team goes her separate way. Debbie mixes and enjoys a martini at Danny's tomb, knowing he would be proud of her.
So this is the part that started to lose me a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think up until this point, I was fine with this. I was sold on this film and thinking, oh yeah, I like this. There are some things that are kind of suspension of belief a little bit, but up to that point, I'm enjoying myself. And then I get to this part where James Corden shows up, and
you really don't like him.
I like him fine. I just wish he would stay out of movies.
Oh yeah,
I like him, but I just don't want him around me.
I don't know. He brings too much of himself into a film to the point where it kind of pulls me out of the story.
But I think he didn't in this one.
Yeah,
no, I think he did. I think he's just kind of...
At this point, he's made his mark.
So I don't mind his role so much. It's kind of him being too familiar with Debbie Ocean and the whole operation. And I didn't quite get why they had to have that talk in the diner and her almost in a weird way kind of bribing him into trying to get Becker arrested, basically.
I actually kind of liked that because it was kind of a change on the insurance investigator side. He's kind of like, all right, I'm on your side now.
It's just way too... It was a little too sudden for me. I wish there was something that was a little more subtle in trying to get Becker arrested.
Right.
Like, you could still do all that stuff without these weird conversations that don't feel very well planned out. I don't know. I think this is where it got a little sloppy for me.
I feel like... Yeah, I also feel like the movie took too much time after the movie.
Yeah.
You felt was over to close all these loose ends that you don't really need to close. You can kind of leave it a little ambiguous, but give it a positive spin. Like, they got away with it.
Well, that's what the Ocean's 11 did really well. And 13 too.
Yes.
Where it just shows them successful at the end, and they meet up at that one spot, and then they all walk their separate ways. And that was the Fountains of Bellagio.
This one shows them all walking their separate ways, and then what did they all do?
I know.
I
didn't need all that. Yeah.
Backstory.
You don't need to know those things.
That's your intro to the next movie.
Well, like Noah said, 11 and 13 especially had one smooth, continuous arc. This one definitely feels like a tacked-on epilogue. I already have some, strong concerns on pacing on this movie, and by the time James Corden rolls around, like, I'm already checked out. Like, get back at Becker, get him arrested. All I need to see is him being led away in handcuffs. I don't need to see this whole second story that, I don't know, it's too much.
It was like a second arc.
Guys, the cut of this movie is only 90 minutes long. We need something more.
All right,
sorry.
I'm not going to complain as much about James Corden himself because I don't mind him too much. I mean, maybe
I don't either. He was just kind of the mark of when things went wrong, I guess.
But I wanted to say there's one passing comment that didn't get by me that bothered me quite a bit. And it was the fact that this was the guy that got Danny Ocean.
Oh,
this was the guy.
Yeah.
This guy. Like, why is he dead? Why do we need to know that? Like, is that supposed to tease something for another trilogy?
But is he dead? Whoa.
Yeah,
they alluded to the fact that he could have been alive, maybe.
He's gonna have a big Jesus moment for Ocean's 14 if there's ever one of those.
You mean 9? Yeah, I was gonna say.
I honestly think the goal of this is to do 8, 9, and 10 with the girls.
Oh, you're right.
And then 14 with a mix of the guys and the girls.
Ocean's 32.
Oh gosh, man!
Imagine just it would take 30 minutes to catch up with every single person.
The whole movie
You
is
just add the Fast and
characters.
Furious cast to it.
Oh gosh!
And then the whole back is just all of them getting arrested.
Vin Diesel.
But they do a close up of each one of them passing.
It's
just
about
zoom
family.
in as they pass arrested.
Could you imagine
walk
32
by.
of those awkward zoom-ins?
I think honestly for me that was the worst part of that movie.
Just that one editing choice.
Yeah, that
one-
zoom in on 12 different people slowly.
Okay, so I feel like we're at least all kind of on the same page in terms
In
of the
this
ending of this movie. A little messy.
Yeah. In
I
fact,
feel-
it's kind of reminding me of this. This is a greater sin than this film was, but how I felt about Girl with the Dragon Tattoo,
Right.
where it's all of the cues are telling you it's the end of the movie. But then you find there's still more. And then I had to pause the film to see how much more there actually was. And when I thought the movie was over, it turns out this movie actually had 30 more minutes.
Yeah.
I was
It's definitely
so
more egregious
confused.
than Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh, yeah,
Hey,
definitely.
Lord of the Rings did it.
I know, but
They
Lord of
had
the Rings...
three
This is a
endings.
book.
That was
The story
different.
had
That
an
was
epilogue.
different, though. Yeah. So, but Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was definitely the lesser evil here. They were nearly perfect.
I
but-
really love that movie, but I really loathe the last shot. I'm just like,
yeah.
you had a perfect kind of, ending to this. It wasn't,
It's
you know,
something that
sugary
could've
sweet.
It's not a
It was
happy
at
ending.
least,
No,
yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
but I didn't, it just felt like it opened up something else that didn't need, that, okay, now I have to see the resolution of this.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we don't ever get it.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Yeah, this movie definitely kind of just you were ready for it to be over, and I would have been completely satisfied. But then they kind of knocked it off with a whole other subplot going on.
I kind of honestly think it was just padding out the length.
Yeah.
Like, because this is the shortest, I think, of all of the movies. And
Really? I felt that's so
I feel like
strange.
they're all 2 hours plus, and then this one's an hour 50 minutes.
They dragged
This one
on.
felt longer.
They dragged on.
Yeah.
Maybe 13 was shorter as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I
I'm not
felt
a good
that.
source for that.
I think
Oh,
that
well.
Casino made the pacing feel better because it's such a
it have a
high
good story?
energy. No, actually, I would say that this one had a better story in a lot of ways. I just think that a Casino allows for more upbeat energy, so you feel more active, where this one didn't exactly have that high energy. And
I think that it's not the high energy of the setting. I think it's more just the like AJ said before, it's kind of just the pacing of the movie. It's usually you have a movie that has kind of three separate sections,
Acts.
the intro, then the middle point leading to the climax, and then the ending where everything's closed. But it felt like some of those sections dragged a little bit, and then there was an epilogue after those three portions were...
well, I agree with the ending
put
kind
on.
of dragging on. I didn't feel the lull the same way I guess everyone else did. I just think that the energy still felt more engaging in the other ones because
I'm
the
with
Casino.
you. I'm with you mostly, David. I felt no lag until the epilogue
The James
that we were
Corden
talking
part.
about.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was like, oh,
exactly.
this is perfectly paced.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
I
what
know you
we're
had
kinda
issues with it,
saying.
AJ.
No,
Yeah.
AJ said it was having issues throughout.
Anyway.
Yeah, especially
Oh.
Sandra Bullock scenes where she was just kind of sitting there. I felt some lulls there. But it seems
Yeah.
like we're all trying to get into our reviews, so I don't know if we want to...
Yeah, let's wrap this thing up.
Well, we did.
We're gonna take a quick break, and on the other end, we're gonna talk about this movie, give our brief reviews with numbered scores, and get into some box office and talk about this franchise. This is the last one, so we'll have a little more to say. Welcome back. We're here to talk about Ocean's 8. David, you have our scores in a little bowl. Why don't you pull those at random?
Alrighty. Let's see. First score. David, hey, I'm going first this time. I'm going to start this off with a bang. I'm going with an 8.5 on this one.
Dang.
That's a score.
It is a score, and I think that I was trying to pay attention to what I did with the originals and how I felt this lined up with all of them. And if I had to pick one of them, it would be close between this one or Ocean's 13. I think they were very comparable as far as my enjoyment goes. I think that the only issue with this one was the ending for me, but overall I think they did a better job in a lot of other areas. I think that the character development in the beginning was better. I think that I enjoyed the caper on this one. I think that it was more understandable for me and required less crazy antics. I know there were some, but less so. And I don't know, I just overall had a fun time with this movie, and I would revisit it if it was on. So in the end, I think this one did a really, really good job trying to follow up the Ocean's trilogy. I think that they would have to try to forge their own steps moving forward, and that might be hard to do. I don't know if they're gonna. I guess we'll talk about whether or not they're gonna do another one, but overall, I would watch that one. I'm on board with this one.
Yeah. Next
score. Noah with a 6.0.
So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep with that 6 because I kind of found that it had a number of flaws. While it was entertaining, like I enjoyed the characters. I thought maybe they had a little bit of a shaky start with Rihanna and a couple of them kind of trying to fit into the shoes of the initial Ocean's movies, but they eventually found their own. I might have preferred this movie to have more of a villain role, even though I know it's a heist and that's what you're kind of what you're getting into with that, but you kind of like a guy you can stick it to, and I know that takes the form of Richard Armitage, but I think they could have made him look even worse or had him do something along the way that made you still want him to bite the dust even more.
I think it. Not to. I know this is your review, but I feel like she had more motivation than Danny Ocean did in the first one. Danny Ocean just wanted to. It was in his blood to do that, which is understandable. She literally spent 5 years in prison, and throughout those 5 years, Richard Armitage or Becker was just totally cool with that, with her taking the fall.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with that. But I think they if you're gonna have that kind of role, you need to have them kind of spur you in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, you need to have more screen time actually doing something.
Right.
Yeah,
that I would agree with.
I could get that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with that. But also to point out, with Ocean's 11, they did have the role of the villain, even if he didn't do anything that was straight up villainous that you could see. He was the antagonist of the story, and that was the casino owner.
Terry Benedict.
But Terry Benedict. That said, I enjoyed the movie. It did lull at the end, and so my 6.0.
Here, since this is the end of this franchise so far, I'm going to have us do a quick ranking of the 4 Oceans films. So Noah, rank all 4 of them, number 1 to 4, best to worst.
My favorite? Okay. I'd have to say, hands down favorite was 13.
Okay.
Followed by 11. Followed by 8. Followed by 12.
Okay. That is a fair ranking.
Shouldn't we just look at our scores and see how they line up?
Oh, but I feel like feelings change, and when you're confronted with a question like that, it might switch things up a little bit in the moment. Like,
I would say too that we for a lot of these are trying to approach it with a critical lens, and what we critically agree is better than another we may not feel is our favorite. So it makes sense.
So since I didn't ask you, David, what would be your ranking?
8, 13, 11, 12.
8, 13, 11, 12.
8's your number 1?
Yeah,
Dave.
I think that 11 has a lot of good points, but I still thought 13 was better, and in the end, I still enjoyed watching this one more than 13.
So this is up there with what now?
Based on those reactions, you guys might hate mine.
Okay, let's pull the next score
right,
there,
next score.
and remind me to do the scoring for each of you, the ranking for each of you guys.
Reese with a 7.5.
Huh.
Yep, I'm gonna hold firm with the 7.5. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie yet again. The only thing holding it back from Ocean's 13 status, which I gave an 8, and I still like slightly more, was just the recycled plot and the whole epilogue section that I didn't feel was necessary and could have been wrapped up more cleanly and quickly. But I actually really like the cast of characters here. It takes a lot to find, a whole group of cast or a whole group of people that can stand up to, the cast of Ocean's 11, 12, 13 and feel like they, belong in that same echelon or that's how you say that word, right?
I think you're right, yeah.
In that same echelon. And these ones totally fit into that environment, and they make big, bold cases as to, why that is. I think this movie really, or the director, Gary Ross, really wields this cast in all of the right ways and gives you just enough of an emotional involvement in, or emotional insight into Debbie's character. Like, I think, for me, the motivation was slightly better than it was for Danny Ocean, and I was more behind her in this movie than I was for him in his first movie.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one.
And I also enjoyed the stripped down nature of the heist. I like a heist that I can understand. That's always a plus. I don't like feeling like I'm an idiot when I'm watching a movie, and I didn't feel like an idiot watching this movie. And maybe that's a personal flaw, and I should just, open up my mind to more complex plotting.
Some people are just more intelligent than us, I guess.
Yeah, but a movie like this that is wanting, it's like a popcorn movie, but you also have to really focus on everything, which I feel like is just the heist genre in general. You got to meet in the middle, and this one meets in the middle. It's just smart enough, but it's not convoluted. So, yeah, I liked it. And if I had to rank all of the Ocean's movies, I would go 13, 8, 11, 12.
So yours and mine were very similar.
Well,
yes.
Reese and I's were also very similar.
I do also want to say that I feel like in a retrospective viewing, I would look upon 11 higher than I did the first time I saw it. Just having seen all of these and just seeing the full scope of work, I feel like I would come away from 11 with more reverence.
Yeah.
So, and to this day, I think that is the most unfair grade I've given to a movie.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, not about yours, but about my score as well.
I know. I just think that was a funny follow-up to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, I agree that your score is terrible. But
you should have kept it at that.
But yeah, like I gave Ocean's 11 a 6.5, so I deserve to be stripped naked and shamed down a street. I get that.
Shame.
But yeah, I just need to revisit that movie. It's something about, I had just a kind of a negative feeling towards this franchise going into it. Maybe a preconceived notion that I wouldn't like them, that maybe wasn't fair. Yes.
You went right from Tarantino to this, so kind of,
Yeah, that's true. Well, now you see me technically, but
okay.
Oh, that's right.
We already forgot about
totally
it.
Forgot.
So yeah, just take my ranking of 11 with, maybe that's not entirely true, but that's how I have to go with it for now. So
I think they're all very close, though. In the end, they didn't quite make a bomb of a movie other than 12. We don't talk about 12, but 11 and 13. I feel like they didn't stray that far from each other, and 8.
Yeah. All right, with that, you can pull the next score.
Next score is AJ with a 5.
Dang.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll strike that and go 5.5.
Oh,
makes somebody
feel
happy.
bad.
Yes, 5.5.
Got it. Got that half point.
So I'll just recount my, I guess, negatives first. So number one was pacing. I did feel that this movie dragged, and especially, we talked about a stripped down plot, and I agree that we could pare down the head count and stuff like that, but I feel like they cut a little bit too much. I don't know that, I feel like a heist movie, like you want to have complications and stuff like that. I don't know. That's just me.
I actually agree with you on that.
I just feel like, I expect a lot from Sandra Bullock, and she didn't do a bad job. She just didn't wow me as much as, to get it on a positive note, I think the cast overall performance was great across the board. And like was mentioned earlier, like Mindy Kaling and Helena Bonham Carter's performance really kind of surprised me and refreshed me in a way that they played to not their type, or they weren't typecast. And so I like that, and everyone played on an even playing field, I feel like, instead of, it's just Danny Ocean or Rusty whatever his last name is. And then everyone else just kind of incidental. Like, I guess everyone kind of felt like on an even playing field here, and I appreciate that. And I, like was mentioned also as well, as Anne Hathaway's performance in this actually shocked me and made me realize again how great of an actress she is, how talented she is, because I did like her performance in this. And the twist was kind of good and bad, because I did appreciate having a twist, but then, like was said, it kind of ruins her character a little bit earlier on, and rewatches and gonna play out the same way, I guess. So, and I like the tone, I like the style, I like Daniel Pemberton's score. He does great work, you know, any movie he's in. But I had to dock at points again for retreading the Ocean's 11. Like, hey, this is not Danny Ocean, but it's Debbie Ocean. This is not Rusty, but it's Lou. And it's like, let's go outside and say, you know, don't tell me I'm wrong about why we're doing this and all this stuff. It's like, those scenes were exactly lifted from 11, but this isn't supposed to be a remake. So I don't know. It kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And then the whole epilogue afterwards is just like, I'm already not invested in this. Like, you can't try to shoehorn an antagonist at the end and wrap up his story. Like Noah said, there's no denouement, there's no resolution. Like, it just doesn't feel like a seamless arc of a story. Like, you know, even 12 had some, like, was derailed a little bit, or quite a bit with the Julia Roberts stuff. But I mean, at least you had Isabel's character that was its redeeming factor, in my opinion. So yeah, I did not care for the story or the story writing from a macro lens. Like, I get the heist, but you know, the twists and turns of it, I didn't really appreciate the story, or, you know, the goal and the motivations of these characters. I don't know. Let's rank them, I guess. Depending on the day, probably 13 has a slight edge over 11, but again, depending on the day, I might have 11 up top. So let's say 13, 11, 12, 8.
All right.
As much as 12 has problems, I still enjoy that character aspect of it. Then this one, just the story I didn't like.
You just like the break dancing laser thing.
Oh yeah,
that's what it was.
This one,
that sold it.
I didn't like the story arc of this movie and the flow of it.
Yeah, any movie that gives you 2 Julia Roberts must be better than.
Yeah.
This one almost gave you 2 Anne Hathaways, though.
That's true.
Yeah, I will say, like, I think everyone spoke on this before, but I kind of liked the fact that Anne Hathaway is going to be on their side now.
Yeah.
Me too.
I mean, I understand y'all's point of view on that, but I thought, oh, hey, yeah, she's going to be part of the team now. That's nice.
I think she'd be.
I think we would all agree that we would like it conceptually, but the way it was thrown in there felt
it was suddenly little... it was a shoehorn.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like, let's have a twist. Let's make this.
Yeah.
So we got another review.
Yeah,
one more.
But not least is Irina with an 8.5.
I was so relieved to finally see a movie where they did make somewhat of a feminist move, but didn't try constantly to shove it in your face that, oh yeah, we're women now. You know, I think that for once I saw a movie where a lot of women were acting together and actually looked like they were actual women talking to one another. You know, I feel like there are so many movies where it's either the women in these roles are either jealous of one another or just the love interest. So I enjoyed that fact, and I think this movie kept my attention more than I thought it would. I'm just going to agree with all of you, the fact that I think we all picked up on how it dragged at the end. That's kind of hard to ignore. So it must be a common problem across the board. But I think it could have wrapped up there with the jewelry heist and then just kind of settled. But I think up until then, I might have given this an even higher score. But that is what started to tank it for me. So
yeah.
Gosh, I can't think of anything else that we haven't already covered. But I don't know. I would watch this again and enjoy it still. So
yeah, as I said, these past 2 movies have made me just reconsider the franchise as a whole. It's like really made me think that maybe there was something I was missing with the first one that I need to
public apology.
rediscover.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think I said this for Ocean's 11, and, the company you keep while you're watching a movie, as well as the setting in which you watch it, can really affect your enjoyment.
And you like to think that I just watched the movie alone in a dark room.
Well, you did, didn't you?
I mean, there was a couple lights on.
Exactly what I thought. I imagine you had a lamp on in the corner, and you're by yourself. Maybe a beer.
Yes, I had a beer.
There you go.
I think the entire Ocean series is not without flaw at all, but upon retrospect, it's still thoroughly enjoyable. You can forgive those flaws just because it's a fun experience, and I think that means it's a successful franchise overall anyway. So I would definitely watch them all in sequence, just kind of, as a marathon, and that I would have fun with it. So
yeah, and I take all of my really long bathroom breaks for 12.
Yep.
Yeah.
The weird thing is, I kind of disagree. I have a lot of problems with 12, but I do enjoy the energy of it.
All right, let's hear your ranking.
Yeah, let's hear your rankings, Irina.
Okay. So, I think for me personally, Ocean's 8, Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13.
Whoa.
All of our orders are different.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not your rating, your ranking, just the fact that none of us have
the same.
Yeah.
Irina was the first one
order.
who didn't put 12 last, though.
Yeah. No, the thing is, I enjoy the energy of 12.
AJ put 8 last.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a good... Okay, we did it. AJ, do you want to crunch the numbers on Ocean's 8?
Yeah, so David, 8.5. Irina, 8.5. Reese, 7.5. Noah, 6.5. Did I get those right?
I got 6.0.
6.0.
Yeah, no, 6.
Yeah, 6.0.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for a title average for our group is a 7.2.
It passed.
And that ties it with 28 Days Later and puts it below, looks like a three-way tie of, all right, World War Z, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and Ocean's 11, which all had 7.3.
Okay,
pretty close, too.
All right.
I'm not mad about that.
So I'm guessing the official consolidated ranking of all of the Oceans is 13, 11, 8, and then 12?
Yes. 13, 11, 8, then 12. You're right.
Nice.
And then let me crunch a franchise average real quick. So franchise average for all 4 titles is a 7.0.
All right.
Ooh, just barely made it up there. It's passing.
I think 12 is the anchor on that one.
Yeah.
Dragging it down.
To be honest.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into critics. This movie on Rotten Tomatoes has a 69%, which is fresh. Audiences were not as kind, with a 45%. Metacritic, it has a barely passing score of 61, so it's just in the green there, and an audience score in the yellow, mixed, 5.2. And on IMDb, audiences were, lukewarm, but more positive than they were on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, with a 6.3 out of 10. So yeah, mixed to positive reviews, I would say, overall.
Yeah.
Critics were more warm than audiences, so it gets a passing grade from critics and a not passing from audience.
Can I venture a guess as to why the audience wasn't as thrilled by this?
Sure.
I think from my perspective, I feel that those that would go to see this movie were already fans of Oceans. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise, I don't really see a reason why someone would just decide, oh, I'm going to watch Ocean's 8 where it's women.
I think I have a feeling.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's... the women is probably a factor in there. There's a bunch of dudes who are just like, this isn't the Oceans that I know.
Hey, yeah.
And I'm...
That's some, yeah, I'm sure.
But I also think it actually has a lot to do with them just casting aside Danny Ocean as potentially dead.
Yeah.
And like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Like you can have your own movie, but you can't go back into the previous movies and...
That's what I think it was. I think it was people that or it was people that were already huge fans of the series to begin with.
Yeah.
And I can imagine if I were a really big fan of the previous films, which I hadn't seen them before, so I can't really say, but it would be a little bit disappointing to come in and watch this film where they sort of just throw in old characters as kind of names offhandedly and little cameos, but a completely different feel from the originals.
I think they missed a big opportunity in having an after credit scene where Danny Ocean's like looking at the news and he reads about like, and he like
No,
smiles.
I definitely think he's still alive.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I don't think
I think he's still alive.
Like he's a crafty guy. He probably staged his death, and he's
Yeah, which reminds me, I think that was actually a clever choice for this film to decide to leave his death ambiguous.
Yeah.
Where he's not in this, but it's still questionable whether he actually died.
Yeah. I was gonna say another movie that did this is more recent that audiences just did not care for was Terminator: Dark Fate. And spoilers if you haven't seen that movie. So real quick, they kill John Carter right at the beginning,
right?
And it's not about him anymore.
Yeah.
The movie's good. I think the movie's good, but
I haven't seen
that
it.
was like that triggered a lot of people, and I could see a similar kind of trigger.
You know what that kind of reminds me of? The Halloween series, the franchise where they just kind of kill Laurie at the beginning of
same thing.
Yeah.
The six, which one, 8 was it?
Yeah, I don't remember
H2O.
one of them.
Yeah. Okay, let's go into box office here.
Cool.
This movie cost $70 million, so it's the cheapest in the franchise. It's probably because you don't have nearly as many members. It released on June 7th of 2018, and it released against Hereditary, and Solo, A Star Wars Story, was in its third weekend of release. So that should give you an idea of the climate surrounding this movie's release in summer. What do you guys think this movie did worldwide?
327.
327?
Yeah.
Okay, Irina?
I hate guessing.
But you gotta do it.
310.
310. David?
220.
All right. AJ?
275.
And our grand total is 297.
AJ.
So wait, 310.
That was me.
I think you were closer.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Wait, someone do math for me real quick.
AJ, what was your score?
AJ, do math.
I'm pretty sure Irina is closer by like.
Yeah,
Hey,
Irina edged it out.
Look at that.
There's a point for the girls.
13 versus.
I'm not good at guessing money, but I got it.
You said it was 97 or
297. Yep.
Nice.
13 versus,
Okay.
yeah.
Which
Cool.
again, very good total for this movie.
Yeah, not bad.
Very profitable, especially considering it cost less. That's right in line with the other Oceans movies. I think a couple of the Oceans ones did slightly better, but I think it's above one of them. I don't know which one specifically. But yeah, very good total for this. Obviously, it's Ocean's 8, so you would assume, oh, now we're going to get Ocean's 9 and then potentially Ocean's 10 because that's kind of what they're teasing. And then as I mentioned earlier, I think the grand plan for it is to have their big Avengers moment, Avengers 14.
Avengers 14.
No, like Ocean's 14, that's like the crowning jewel idea on the franchise and then put it to bed. But there's not been a lot of discussion about when this franchise is going to pick back up. I don't think it's dead. I think we're definitely seeing more Oceans movies in the future.
Yeah.
But the pace on that seems much slower than it was for the original trilogy, which was like every 3 years. Whereas this one, I don't think there's even any script writing going on. Or no one said anything really.
I do wonder, though, I think part of the reason this movie felt so freaking long at the end was maybe because they didn't think they had a chance at another one. Maybe they thought this was all they got, so they have to wrap it up fully, you know?
Maybe. But they still leave that Danny Ocean thread, even though it's subtle.
They do.
I think that's a thread that is left just kind of like, oh, we should pick that up.
No, but that's why I think they had to explain away the whole, like, where are they now? And wrapping up the Claude Becker thing, you know?
Yeah, it was a closed movie, so you felt complete.
Yeah. I felt like they maybe felt they needed to just have all of that in there just in case they didn't get a chance to follow it up.
Yeah, so this is one of the few franchises that I truly don't know what its future is going to be, because if you look at its track record, we had Ocean's 11, big success, remake. Then Ocean's 12 carried the baton, but critics and audiences didn't like it nearly as much.
Right.
But it made a lot of money, so they still made another one. They recovered and then made Ocean's 13. So they haven't had any issue with making a follow-up to a movie that wasn't received as well.
Right.
Ocean's 13 was better received. Ocean's 8, while not quite as well received as 13, got better reception than 12, I feel like.
Yeah.
And it made an equivalent amount of money and on a lower budget. It only makes sense that there would be a sequel sometime down the line. It's just maybe, I don't know, maybe there's no passion for it. Maybe they can't crack the code on where to take it next. Do y'all have any thoughts? Like, what would you do? Or does anyone have any potential ideas of where they could go that would be new and exciting?
With this one?
With a follow-up to Ocean's 8.
I feel like the charm of these movies is you need a novel story. So there's not necessarily a logical progression because each time is something new.
Yeah,
but the common denominator for the first three is Soderbergh, and it was almost his pet project for that. Now, I think he was the executive producer for Ocean's 8. So he had a hand in it a little bit, but, you didn't really feel his thumbprint on it. So it still needs some kind of continuity behind it.
I think the obvious solution for this is, I think they need to do 14 next.
Yeah.
You can still have 9 and 10, but if you want to get the guys in on this and have the girls with them, you can't wait too long on that. And if you're waiting...
Well, it can't be 14 then, following that logic.
Well, it would be a sequel to both of them.
Yeah.
Well, no, it wouldn't, because this is following chronological order, but I think you could still go back and do 9 and 10. It doesn't... The numbers are really arbitrary.
Ocean's Infinite.
I mean, I bet like maybe a story would be, someone's in prison, and so they have to team up to get one of them out of prison, or Danny out of prison, or something like that.
Ooh, actually, a prison heist would be interesting.
That would be cool.
It could be that they're trying to get all the stars aligned for the next one, and that's why it's taking a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if the next one really is like Danny Ocean centric, not centric, but like that's the heist.
Yeah.
And a prison idea, that's really cool. Or at least just, I don't know.
That seems like a good ending to an Ocean's 10, where you finish the trilogy of the female led cast with "Let's get my brother now that we know where he is," and then that would lead into 14.
Honestly, I personally would like something that has a little more threat to it. For instance, being involved in some kind of gang-related activity where it's not just,
cartels.
oh no, I'm going to go to jail for this. It's more like an actual threat of life, I think that would be at least upping the stakes a little bit.
We're breaking into Area 51.
Oh my gosh.
No,
Danny
but
heists
get that
the
have actual skin in the
presidency.
game.
Yeah,
I feel like it would be like, setting up higher stakes for Danny as well, showing that maybe he was trying to do something good, and then he ended up if he's trying to stop cartels or trying to do something in that manner, and then he gets abducted.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be cartels.
Yeah,
just how cool would it be? And maybe it won't be because I'm kind of just flying off the seat of my pants right now. But if you told two dueling sides, the girls are on the outside and the guys have all been imprisoned or something like that, and you have a half Prison Break movie. And the other side is the girls trying to also get them out. I think there could be a cool dynamic.
I would definitely like to see more of a collaboration between the male and female casts.
Yeah, I would agree. Collaboration over a competitive girls versus boys is probably a little on the nose.
Right.
Yeah, let's all get along, guys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so I think that wraps up our discussion on Ocean's 8 and the entire Ocean's franchise. We were mostly positive on the movie, and we would say the franchise is also mostly positive and an overall success story.
Yeah.
With, I think, a future.
Yeah.
I don't know about a bright future, but I do think it has a future. Do we want to do honorable or dishonorable death on this franchise? Do you think if there were no other Ocean's movie, would this be an acceptable end to the franchise?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
So, technically it's honorable, but
I think it's just barely.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Only because each installment is so, it's not reliant on the other ones.
Right.
Yeah.
I would have said that 13 would have been a completely honorable death, though.
I would
if they had
almost say
left it
dishonorable if not for the Danny Ocean thread.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I'm like, oh, there's still something to be said there.
It's like they're trying to keep the door open without being fully responsible for keeping the door open.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I get what the tightrope that the movie was trying to walk, where it's like, you don't want to have Danny Ocean be a presence in that movie, because then you've got a movie that's about the girls for once, but actually the real focus is secretly what's Danny Ocean up to.
Yeah.
And that kind of just diverts the attention away.
I feel like it was unnecessary, even if you do reintroduce him, like having his, tombstone, or, showing him in the movie, doesn't serve any purpose to introduce him again if they revive him.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
I guess we're all in agreement that it's honorable.
It's passing, just barely passing. Yeah. Because I think reviving a franchise this late, it can't mean anything other than wanting to do more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just barely passing there.
Yeah. All right, well, bag it and tag it, guys.
It's done.
It's an honorable death. Next week, we're getting spooky,
but not very spooky.
But we're gonna ease you into it. So Irina, you're the next one to pick our franchises.
Yeah.
So you wanted to give the Vamps a shot.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I wanted to do Near Dark really badly, but that one apparently is very hard to get your hands on. So
unless someone wants to donate. Donate a copy.
Yeah, so that one was difficult to nail down, so we won't be doing that. Hopefully somewhere in the future, fingers crossed, we'll be able to crossed because they hate crosses. We'll get
I won't
to
put
do
any
that.
stake in that.
So instead, I think first, as just kind of an easy entrance into the spooky season, we'll do Van Helsing. And following that, I guess you'll just have to see which vampire movies I pick for you.
So. Twilight.
Intriguing.
Yeah.
Van
no,
Helsing.
I'm not ready
not
for Twilight
do
yet.
Twilight.
Yeah, Van Helsing. That's our palate cleanse before we
Yeah.
dig into another big franchise. So I think that's been kind of a pattern that we've been following.
Yeah.
Where it's like we need a little palate cleanse and then go into it.
A palate cleanse or a palate dirtier, but we'll see.
Okay.
One or the other.
I don't think that didn't really roll off the tongue.
Okay.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, but you know what I'm getting
A
at.
palette dirtier.
What would you call that? Where
Palate tainter.
Taint.
a palate
You're
taint.
putting some taint in your mouth.
I don't like this. I don't like this
move
at all.
on.
All right. Until then, you can find our podcast on Instagram, Facebook. We're working on a Facebook page, right? Yep. Spotify. All podcast platforms. We're there. Like, subscribe. As David likes to say, ring that bell.
Ring that bell, even though we don't really do much on YouTube.
And if you're feeling exceptionally generous, please give us 5 stars on Apple, because that helps us get noticed in the old algorithm.
It's not fair. We deserve to be higher. That's my opinion.
Yeah, we're so much better. No.
Get us out there.
No.
Yeah.
But please, if you have any time out of your day to just go on Apple and give us those 5 stars, that'd be amazing.
It really helps.
And we'd be eternally grateful. And we'd keep providing all
Eternally
of the
like
content you come
vampires.
to expect. Yeah. And our episodes come out every Wednesday in the morning. All right. Next week, Van Helsing.
Yeah, let's do it, girl.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye.
If you're going to have a problem with stealing, then you're not going to like the rest of this conversation.